Hi guys. So I wanted to do a really quick disability related rant. It's on this kind of trope that we see in media, but we also just see in kind of general public perception and in disability activists perception, sadly enough. It's basically this expectation that if somebody has any kind of disability, they must have something to make up for it. And this can be anything from like, oh, you're paralyzed from the waist down. You must have really good upper body strength, or something that's kind of sort of like, oh, you're blind. You must have really good hearing. Oh, you're schizophrenic. You must be really creative or something. But we also obviously see it with kind of the portrayal of savants, which obviously do exist, but are rare, a lot rarer than people think, or like gifted people who have disabilities. Of course, there are plenty of gifted people who have disabilities, but that's not necessarily because they have the disability, or it's not that because you have the disability, you have to be intellectually gifted. And we see that a lot with people on the autism spectrum, where that's kind of the expectation, where actually the majority of people on the autism spectrum, when you include all forms of autism that are not just what used to be called Asperger's, because sadly people are conflating the two and forgetting that autism is actually a wider spectrum. Actually, the majority of people with autism are not intellectually gifted, are not savants, or even with people who are intellectually disabled, that people are willing to recognize are intellectually disabled. There's always like the assumption like, oh, people with Down syndrome, people with Williams syndrome, mentally disabled people in general, they're so sweet, they're so kind, they're so caring. There's always this assumption that because they have some kind of disability, that's for some reason inherently such a bad thing that they must have some kind of ability to make up for it. And that's most of the portrayals of disability we see in media and just in people's perceptions in general, and especially around autism for some reason. Especially there's this whole thing around autism, but actually people with autism are really, really smart and they can do things the rest of us can do. It's just kind of, I get sick of seeing it, because it's like, what's wrong? What on earth is wrong with just having a disability? Why are we so afraid to use a term like disability, even in the disability rights community? Because I see a lot of people in the disability rights community saying things like using the social model of disability, basically that disability is not inherent, that it's just how society treats disability that makes it a disability. In which case, if it's just society, then like, why why are these conditions even diagnoses at all? Like, if it's just society that makes you disabled, theoretically a person with spina bifida should be able to not have, like, should literally be no different than a person without, right? And should just be able to walk completely normally if it's just society, right? I mean, that whole argument is so stupid. I can see it definitely how societal discrimination makes disability harder a lot for people. It creates a lot of hurdles. It makes the effects of disability worse, for sure. But it's not the entire scope of the disability, for sure, especially when it comes to more severe stuff. You can have society accommodate disability in every single way possible. And if it's a disability at all, it would still, by definition, be disabling. That's kind of the point. That's why people who wear glasses are generally not considered visually impaired, right? But yeah, there's just this assumption that if you have a disability, that makes people so uncomfortable that you have to have some usually some spectacular ability to balance it out. And it's like, so few people who are disabled have that in the first place. And those who do are still disabled. Like, I mean, Stephen Hawking had an incredible intellectual ability. Does that mean he didn't have ALS? Does that mean he was not disabled by that? I could go on with other examples. I don't see why people are just so hesitant to acknowledge that not everyone can do everything that everyone else can, that other people can, that we're not all on the same level ability wise. Of course, I believe we're on the same level morality wise. I mean, unless you do some kind of heinous thing, I believe we all have equal value as people, and that certainly having a disability doesn't make you a bad person inherently. It doesn't make you a good person inherently either. I don't see why you have to have some spectacular ability. It just doesn't make sense to me. That's not how the world works. Sorry. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a sad reality to understand that some people have a harder time in life. It took me a long, long time to come to terms with the fact that I had struggles and was not going to be able to achieve the same things that everyone else can in life, or not be able to achieve them on the same timeline. That was certainly a hard thing for me. That was a hard thing for my parents, I'm sure. But it is what it is, you know? I mean, yeah, theoretically, it'd be better to live in a world where people don't have such a harder time with things, but life is hard for everyone, you know? And it just seems unfair that you're held to almost a higher standard if you have a disability than if you don't. Like we don't expect like somebody who doesn't have a disability to be a genius or to be overwhelmingly benevolent person or to have some miraculous physical ability. So why would we expect it of anyone else? And again, especially autistic people are glorified in this way. And the fact that it's a disability is really pushed to the side. And I know hopefully when this video gets out, it'll still be Autism Awareness Month. And I did want to make a couple of videos about that. Because I think there's a lot of misperceptions about autism, especially nowadays. And I guess that's all I wanted to say. I hope you guys took something from my rant. And thanks for watching.